to deliver sustainable business value from their data and AI investments. At InfoSeps, we are experts in unlocking the value that lives within your data to strengthen decisions. We are a global data solutions firm on a mission to bridge the gap between the worlds of business and analytics. We've joined forces with the Ravit Show to bring you the most cutting-edge data and AI insights.
All right, welcome to the Ravit Show, everyone. I'm super excited. Happy Thursday. Today we'll be discussing about a super interesting topic that I have for you all with Sida, who's the product manager at CelerData. We'll be talking about the hidden cost of cloud analytics and how to avoid paying for them. Lately, we've been hearing a lot not just now, but we've been hearing a lot about the cloud costs and how we can actually avoid that. So we brought in Sida, who's from CelerData, and we'll be discussing more about it. We'll be wanting to understand more about the pain points of cloud-based analytics, and how to avoid them. Sida is here. But also, like we always do, a very cool giveaway. We have an iWatch giveaway that we're doing. So what you need to do is just type in hashtag CelerData in the chat. We'll be announcing the same in our newsletter for those who registered for the event. And also, we'll be making a post for them. So feel free to type in CelerData and you have a chance to win an iWatch. So thanks, CelerData, for that. All right, without any further ado, I think it's time for us to call in Sida up here. Hey, Sida, welcome to the Ravit Show. It's such a pleasure to have you today.
Hey.
And I know where you're joining from. It's almost 1 a.m. for you. So thanks for joining us today. We're super excited to learn a lot about the hidden cost of cloud analytics and how to avoid paying for them. So folks who've joined us, I can see a lot of CelerData in the chat. Thanks all for joining. Charlie is here. So feel free to bring in your question for Sida around cloud infrastructure, analytics infrastructure. And I'm pretty sure Sida would be happy to answer those questions. But Sida, to start with, why not introduce yourself to our audience today?
Hey guys, welcome everyone, and thank you, Ravit, for having me. My name is Sida, and I work as a product manager here at CelerData. So just a short introduction for CelerData. CelerData is the creator, a maintainer, and as well as the main contributor of the Starbucks project. Starbucks is a open source, high performance real-time analytics database. And for myself, I have been involved in building and managing various infrastructure tools for machine learning and data analytics related applications. I'm excited to talk with you today, and I hope you enjoy this webinar, this show, and find it useful.
Awesome, Sida. Thanks for those details, and thanks for sharing about your background. My quick question, obviously, like we were also talking backstage when we had the discussion to do a show as well. We know a lot of businesses have moved their analytics infrastructure to the cloud, and some are even skipping on-prem entirely and starting on the cloud. What has made the cloud so attractive, and why now? That is, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people have that question. I get this question on a daily basis. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah. So to talk about cloud, right? First, we need to talk about what is cloud analytics, right? So we're all on the same page, right? Cloud analytics actually refers to the process of manipulating and analyzing data that happens in the cloud instead of locally in some on-premises systems, right? So the cloud I'm going to be talking about today will be mainly focused on public clouds hosted by Amazon, so AWS, Google GCP, and Microsoft Azure, right? I think like building your system on the public cloud does definitely have a lot of advantages over on-prem systems, right? And first of all is, I would say, is scalability, right? With the cloud, you're able to easily spin up or destroy resources, whenever you want, on demand, right? Translating to analytics workload, right? For analytics database is that we're able to scale out our cluster when the demand is high and scale in when the demand is low to save costs, right? This sounds kind of trivial, but it's something that's we cannot do with on-prem systems, right? You cannot simply purchase a server, use it for 5 minutes, and want a refund, right? It's not going to happen, right? And the second part I would say is accessibility, right? Cloud provider has built, the whole infrastructure for us around the globe specifically. Cloud analytics can now be accessed from anywhere, anytime, and with any kind of device, right? Enabling us, the user, to collaborate and share insights across our team or across with us, with our customers, at any location, right? And that's very valuable too, right? And the third part is probably cost effectiveness, right? Cloud can effectively reduce your total cost of ownership, your TCO, right? If you use it smart enough, though, we need to, and we're gonna probably talk about that later, right? Later this show in the conversation, right? First, it really eliminates the upfront capital expenditure. Like those with traditional on-prem scenarios, right? Where you need to buy software and hardware upfront, right? With cloud, we can, also get much, much lower operational costs, right? Also, because of the elasticity of the cloud, uh, it can offer a much more flexible pricing model, right? That's actually based on usage, right? So for a fast changing kind of environment, and this can, so you can change direction really fast on the cloud, right? And the fourth and probably the final point I'm going to bring up is probably innovation, right? Like when we use applications on the cloud, those are offered by cloud providers and third-party vendors like us, like CelerData, right? So, we can always get the latest technology, like for machine learning or data analytics on the cloud, faster than actually the user deploy it themselves, right? What was the second part of the question again? I forgot. I think. Oh yeah, it's why cloud? Why now, right? So why now? Why like not 10 years ago, right? So in my opinion, the reason why cloud analytics is gaining popularity right now, it's from a lot of reasons, but I'll probably highlight the most important one, right? So I think the biggest reason is the demand for data-driven decision making, especially in this rapid changing and increasingly more competitive kind of business scenario, right? Especially for us, I work in high tech, right? Tech is changing so fast. So for example, with all of the latest LLM kind of stuff, right? Language models. Hello, I think I lost you for a second.
No, we're good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So, it just happened to me like just last week, right? So something I know becomes obsolete, right? I read and I catch up, right? Okay, I'm caught up. And I went to sleep. I wake up the next morning and I'm obsolete again. So, yeah, so this is, how fast the technology is changing. It's not only to us, it's also for the businesses, right? They need to act fast so they can stay ahead of their competitors. And cloud, the elasticity is just a tool for them to do that.
Yeah, no, I think this is a great answer in terms of how you've started from scalability to talking about accessibility, cost effectiveness, and to be honest, when when you speak about the new things that are coming in, how the tech is changing so quickly. It's happening with all of us, and I can assure you that, Sida, you're not the only one. uh, we sleep, the next day there's another
Yeah.
big announcement that's happening. There's another big change in the tech, and it's totally a game changer. So I also see that you've spoken about the cost and flexibility in, obviously your answer right now. So wanted to, quickly bring up this topic as well. Cost and flexibility are, regularly celebrated as reasons to move analytics infrastructure to the cloud. But is that always true? There has always been some debate around this claim. So when does this hold true for the cloud? Can you tell us more about it? And obviously,
Mm.
my follow up to that would be and where might someone want to consider an on prem approach or something else?
Okay, sure. So this sounds like a many-part question, a two-part question. I will answer the first part first about
Yeah,
what
sure.
cost and flexibility is always better on the cloud, right? So yeah, I mean, cost and flexibility is always, the main reason why we move analytics to the cloud. But it really depends on how you use it, right? If you use it correctly or use it cloud natively, right, you can get the benefit of, the cloud and the flexibility, right? Um, so first, hardware on the public cloud is actually, more expensive than on-prem, and this is
Mm,
how the cloud vendors make their bottom line. So that's how they profit from, um, uh, selling that service, right? So if you actually use your cloud, like say on AWS, the exact same way that you will use your hardware in an on-prem environment, you're gonna get a skyrocket high bill from your cloud provider. Um,
mm,
Question about that, right? So I've seen a lot of some of our customers do this. So I'll probably point out a few, right? So for example, right, like not stopping your instances when it's not in use, right? So this is, sounds simple, but a lot of people do that, right? Compute on the cloud is really expensive, and
mm.
cloud providers has, provided us with the flexibility of the elasticity of the instances, the compute instances, and we should always, take advantage of that. Stop your instances or use auto scaling groups, right? And if you really need to have your instances running like 24/7 for some workload, always consider for reserve instances to, to further save costs, right? And the second is probably yeah, for storage, right? Like for a lot of storage, the cloud provider, they always say unlimited storage, right? And it's unlimited, but you shouldn't use it like it's unlimited, right? So
Mm,
always control what you put in. Like, you can't put 2 petabytes of, cat videos and, expect it to, still have a low cost, right? Right.
exactly.
Um, so yeah, so if you really have that much data, choose, the most appropriate type of storage for your application is really vital, right? And you can always use tier storage, right, to separate your hot and cold data, right? According to the nature of the data, according to the application, right? And the third point is probably having no visibility to where the cost is, right? To save costs, I must say, one of the most important part is to analyze your usage. You need
Right.
to understand like what service is burning the most money, right? So you
Mm,
optimize, you monitor, and you repeat, right? So that's how to, to control the cost and understand your cost structure, right? And you also need visibility so you can cut costs before, some service goes too far, right? You don't want to have a, like a $300 per hour cluster just running with everybody forgets about it and running for a week, and you see a bill and you get surprised, right? It sounds kind of dumb, but it actually, it happens more than you think. Right.
Exactly.
And so this is like the first part. So
Yep.
what is the second part of the question again? Sorry.
So obviously, when does this hold true for the cloud, and where might someone want to consider an on-prem approach?
Okay.
Is something we would love to learn more about.
Okay. Um, you know, so cloud analytics does come with its own challenges and just drawbacks, right? Sometimes it can be overcome, but in some scenarios it just doesn't work for you. It's just not the right tool for your application, right? And
Mm,
I probably try to point out two key points that you need to keep in mind, right? When you're deciding to move your application to the cloud, or you will decide to start on the cloud, right? So the first part is security and privacy, right? Uh,
right.
Cloud analytics, always involve to store your data in with, you know, some third party vendor, right? Either it's your actual data, or it's your log, or it's your query. All of them are actually sensitive, right? Which, will probably may raise concern about data protection, compliance, governance, and all that, those kind of stuff, right? So before you choose your cloud provider, you always need to
Mm,
ensure that your cloud provider meets your security and privacy requirements and standards beforehand. And you cannot just, that really needs to suit your own application. Like if you're a bank, right? You're in the financial district, or you're in the healthcare industry, right?
right.
Sometimes the data is very important, right? And it's very sensitive, right? So you must look for the vendor that has appropriate kind of compliance standards, right? Um, so this is the first part, and the second part I would probably go with vendor lock-in, right?
Hmm.
Cloud analytics may, limit the choice and flexibility of, where your business goes forward, right? Because switching off cloud can be a pain, can be pretty expensive,
Exactly.
right? So you really need to evaluate the costs and benefits of, cloud options, and you know avoid getting it locked into single vendor or a single solution, right? So you
Exactly.
always want to pick a vendor that is open, right? That is easy to get on and it's easy to get off, right? So it's especially true with, some solutions with legacy architectures, right? So they don't really scale well. So, with like 3 nodes is okay, right? But with more resources you throw at it, the performance, of some solutions just cannot scale that well, right? Cannot
Mm,
scale linearly. So when your business grows linearly, the cost will grow, quadruple, or, exponentially, right? And you
exactly.
need to get off, right? And also, some systems are not open, right? They're not open source. They're not opened. Uh, they're not integrated with, the open source ecosystem, right? Like
Mm,
for example, like for an OLAP database, right? Or an OLAP data warehouse, right? Some vendors, they have their own kind of table format, and they have their own kind of file format, right? So getting off that, good luck with that, right? You need to actually
exactly.
find a way to export the data and, import that into somewhere else. And probably the APIs are all different, and the syntax are all different, and
Right.
is that really sometimes kill businesses because they cannot get off, right? And so yeah, so that's the two kind of advice I will give
Yep.
for, like, when to avoid uh like going for a cloud solution.
No, I think, Siddharth, this is super helpful in terms of, obviously the cost and flexibility in obviously when you should be considering on-prem or get on the cloud. So pretty interesting approach. In we have a few comments here. Sanjeev says we follow the decouple architecture, separate compute and storage. Storage is less costly and compute is highly costly, is high costly. So pretty much aligned. He also mentioned, so I agree with you. We shut down compute and offline business hours and do the automation to reduce the cost.
Yep.
So that makes a lot of sense. Also, that brings me to another important question in terms of the cost, the cloud cost in obviously the term that we've been hearing a lot here is about FinOps. So I would love to hear about what you think about FinOps and get ideas around it. And I'm pretty sure the audience would love to know more about that as well.
Yeah, so we didn't bring up the word, but we've been talking about this, talking about FinOp, right? Just like we've
Yep,
talked about in the past like 10, 15 minutes, right?
exactly.
So with the traditional approach to managing IT costs in a on-prem environment involves purchasing hardware and software upfront, and that's all of the costs you need, and you just wing it right afterward because after the initial purchase, the fixed cost, uh, the only cost is probably some electricity and some manpower, right?
Mm,
And this is no longer applicable in a cloud-based environment, right? um, because the dynamic nature of cloud computing, where resources can be provisioned and
mm,
deprovisioned on demand. This is where you get the savings, right? So you need a lot more uh, careful and more granular control of your resource to get the benefit of the cloud and to get controlled spending, right? So as a result of that, there's a need for a new approach to manage cloud costs, which that leads to the emergence of FinOps that
mm.
Ravi just mentioned, right?
Yep.
So FinOp, in my understanding, it's a discipline that combines financial management,
Mm,
cloud expertise, business strategy, all of those together to optimize cloud costs, right? By implementing
yep.
FinOps practices into our operation and your operations, we can get much better visibility into uh, cloud usage costs and best practices to optimize your cloud resources for the cloud, and thus to reduce cost, right? I think it's
Oops. I think there's some issue with Sida there, but I think back he is. Sida, you back?
yep. I don't know. I got
No
the
worries.
yeah.
You were telling us about something important, some important point about
Yeah.
FinOps.
Yeah, I think FinOp itself is a big subject, and it's going to be difficult to unwrap that, in for the duration of this talk or this conversation, right? I think everybody that's on cloud or looking into getting into cloud should learn about FinOps, and how that can help you save a ton of money on the cloud, right?
Yeah, it's very important, definitely. So thanks for sharing that, Sida. I am also looking at a comment here from Michael. Let's pick this one. My clients are still on-prem, have such complex and custom logic they are not willing to share with a cloud partner. They've built customization into on-prem solutions that cloud apps are not able to compete with. So what are your thoughts around it? Just let's break this down for Michael. Do you have any solutions that you look at, Sida, which could actually compete with on-prem for such type of solution?
I think like choosing between on-prem versus the cloud is really based on your own application. There is no saying that, on-prem is better or on the cloud is better, right?
Yeah.
If the application, on the, the cloud services we have now today on the public cloud cannot satisfy your use case, right? And there is nothing that with on-prem that, hurts you so badly, right? Staying on-prem is probably, it's probably the better choice, to be honest. But I'm not sure about your client's exact kind of
Yeah.
use case, or so I cannot really give a definitive answer, but happy to talk afterward.
Yeah, for
And
sure. Michael, feel free to reach out to Sida. He's a cool guy. I can pretty much validate that. So, thanks for bringing that interesting discussion as well, Michael. So, another quick question here from Valeri that I would want to pick. Can cloud providers meet government security standards for defense government contracts? Pretty interesting. Have you seen or heard about it, Sida?
yeah, I've seen, like uh government contracts they're on the public cloud. And so the public cloud today, they have all kinds of, security and compliance standards met.
Hmm.
And a lot of the compliance like actually limits, that itself can make sure that your application is safe on there. So yeah, definitely, yeah, a lot of the cloud providers can uh, meet the government security standards. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
Amazing. Thanks for that, Sida. Good question, Vijay. Also, that brings me to another important question, Sida. Where do SaaS solutions enter the conversation? Because we were having talks about FinOps, about on-prem. So, and also, how are they impacting the discussion around cloud versus on-prem? Would be interesting to learn from you more about this.
Okay. So SaaS solutions are, vendors like us, or like, or the cloud vendor itself, like AWS,
Yep.
right? And they have software as a solution on the public cloud, right? That's clear that up first. So, which means that the vendor or the third party partner like us provide this like a software application that is easy enough, so easy to use enough, so the customer can focus on what they actually want to achieve instead of the technology that's bugging them, right?
Mm,
And SaaS analytic in SaaS can often be accessed via a web page or a mobile app without any installation or maintenance from the user, right? So they're easy
right.
to, right? And yes, it definitely is impacting the discussion around cloud and on-prem, with a lot of added values. I'll give some examples here, right? So the first one obviously I would bring up is ease of use, right? SaaS analytics are designed to be user friendly and intuitive, right? Enabling users to access and analyze data with very minimal training, or like zero
Mm,
to like almost no technical skill, right? Uh, let's take OLAP databases for example. That's what we build. So if say a user is already on the public cloud, right? Say
mm,
if he wants to deploy his own database on the public cloud, he would still needs to manually deploy and maintain a database. And maintain a database is no easy job, right? And with the SaaS offering, um, it completely isolate the user from the complexity of maintaining a database. Or sometimes
mm,
fully managed SaaS solution even uh, isolate you from the complexity of the cloud itself, like managing AWS related resources, right? So and also like for analytics on the SaaS with the products services we have today on the public clouds, right? And they come with a lot of features, right? Including uh, dashboards,
Mm.
visualizations, alerts, and those are all like enterprise features, right? And to the core as well, to the core database as well. Sometimes they had a more fine-grained access control, or like a secure connection, right? Those kind of stuff. All of that make you know data analytics just more engaging and more appealing and more
Right.
actionable cloud, right? And the second one is, I would say, is speed of deployment and
Mm.
requiring software updates, right? Deployment is automatic. You don't need to worry about that with like a cloud-based solution, right? And also you can always get the latest update, new features, functionality, but more importantly, security fixes, right? You can
Mm.
always get those without even knowing them. Uh, you know, they're there. So yeah. And the third one is actually affordability, right? So say if you manage your own database on the cloud by yourself, right? It's actually kind of difficult to control the cost, like we just talked about earlier, right? You need to
Mm.
know when you use it, when you don't use it. But with the cloud, um, a lot of things are automated, like suspending your cluster, automatic suspending your cluster, automatically you wake up your cluster, right? And a lot of the services are serverless now, so you only get charged for the duration of your query. I mean, that's incredible, right? That's as cheap as it can get. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's all I have for this.
Yeah, I think definitely great points there. Starting from obviously the ease of use, where you kind of put things together in terms of the whole app database, and you've taken a good example there. Also, the speed of deployment and updates. It kind of depends a lot on that front as well, and then the affordability is like a no-brainer there. So thanks, Sida, for letting us know and sharing those insights. We also have a few questions here from the new folks joining us. George is here. So let's pick this one from George. Pretty interesting question. How do you see the field of cloud analytics evolving in the future, and what trends or technologies should organizations be aware of when it comes to managing costs? I know a lot of it, Sida, you've kind of covered in the FinOps bit in the question before that, but just a quick any thoughts around it?
Hmm. Uh, Technology. Oh, about managing and saving costs, right? So the
Yeah.
first I would take a look is the all serverless technology, right? So how does that come into saving cost, and how are cloud, like for example, like AWS Athena, right?
Mm.
Are how is that developed, right? And with that and all of the containerization technologies around the Docker and Kubernetes uh, technology around that, I will keep an eye on that.
Okay, pretty good. Another quick question here from Kanan. How cost can be monitored, controlled over multi cloud deployment use case? Please suggest any third party tools to consider. Do you know any of them, Sida?
A multi-cloud deployment that is like across different public clouds, right?
Right.
I actually cannot think of one on the top of my head right now.
Awesome.
Uh,
We can. I think
yeah,
Kanan can
yeah, we
definitely
can
get in
follow up
touch
with
with
that later.
you. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
And Kanan, do feel free to reach out to Sida and have those questions coming for him. All right. One quick another question here from Kate. Do you think the pay as you go model is better than a standard periodic fee? Very interesting and thoughtful question here.
Yeah, it depends on your scenario. I mean, if your scenario is something like you have a batch processing job you need to run once every once every day, right? Pay as you go is better because it saves,
Okay.
right? Save, you save the most when the when the machine is off, when the compute is, when the compute nodes are off, right? But if you have a service that's running 24/7, right?
Mm.
Uh, a standard periodic fee might work better for you. But it's really depends on the use case. But in analytics, especially for OLAP workloads, pay as you go structure is always, we tend to see, uh, benefits more use cases a lot more than a standard periodic fee, especially on the
Okay.
cloud.
That's pretty nice and fair enough. So thanks, Kate, for that question. And we also got a comment here from Larry. She answered Kanan's question. Terraform, maybe one multiplier tool, I think. So Kanan, you can have a look at that. One solution that I can think on top of my mind is one from Infoseps. They're doing pretty cool on this front. So they're coming up with something like this. I can definitely check in for you, Kanan, and get back to you on that. But that also brings me to another question for you, Sida, and it's around CelerData. So CelerData recently went GA with their SaaS offering, CelerData Cloud, based on the popular Linux project StarRox. How did you go about building CelerData Cloud to make the most of the cloud? Because we're talking about a lot of cloud infrastructure here, and what led to the decision to develop CelerData Cloud when you already had a popular on-prem version, which was CelerData Enterprise. Can you tell us a little about that as well?
Yeah, sure. About CelerData Cloud, which is GA like a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so the decision to develop CelerData Cloud was, driven by market demand
Mm,
and customer feedback from CelerData enterprise users as well as Starrock's, open source community, right? We noticed that a lot of our users slash customers were looking for a cloud-based solution for Starbucks that
mm,
could actually simplify their database management and lower their cost, right? So they can actually focus on their analytics, right? And we also realized that there was a gap in the market for a cloud analytics solution that's able to provide or offer both high performance and,
mm.
real time capabilities and capabilities on the lake, right? All with high security, right? And so therefore we decided to create CelerData Cloud as SaaS offering that's based on StarRock's, and it's gonna meet these needs and expectations, right?
Yep,
And with the second question, I think that was CelerData Cloud versus CelerData Enterprise, right? Uh,
exactly.
and CelerData Cloud is not a complete replacement for the
Okay.
CelerData Enterprise version, and they two gonna stay together, right? Um, for different purposes as well, and uh, yeah, it's complementary, not a replacement, right?
Okay.
And we believe that a cellular cloud can help our customers achieve, much faster and deeper insight on the cloud with minimal hassle and cost.
Yeah, no, I think definitely it kind of all makes sense in terms of, obviously the requirement that comes from the client side, and it kind of also eases up things for them. And good point there, it doesn't replace the Seller Data Enterprise, but it's just a good complement to what you all are also already, what you all have already built there. So kind of makes all sense. Also, I'm pretty sure a lot of audience here still might not be familiar with Star Rocks. Or this might be the first time that they are also hearing about CelerData.
Yep.
Obviously, they are closely related, but can you help us clarify what StarRox is, what CelerData is, and how are they kind of related. So it's easier for our audience because everyone can look at in your background, CelerData powered by StarRock. So I want to learn more about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. CelerData is built on top of StarRox, and CelerData, the company itself, is actually the initiator, the maintainer, and the main contributor of the StarRox project. So I will
Okay,
start
nice.
with probably give a introduction of what the StarRox project is, right?
Yeah, sure.
And StarRox is a high performance OLAP database. Um, it can do a lot of things, right? First, it can be a real time database for scenarios like user facing analytics, right? And what we like to talk about is three F's, right? So Starbucks is fast, it's fresh,
Mm,
and it's flexible, right? So
nice.
fast basically means raw performance, right? Um, I remember correctly, Saras is still number one out of box on ClickBench, which is a benchmark tool developed by folks at ClickHouse, right? Um,
Mm,
and that is for single table aggregate queries, so no multi-table joins, and that's actually where we excel. That's our biggest, one of the biggest attractors to our users, right? And fresh means that with StarRocks, you can always guarantee that your data is fresh for real-time
okay.
analytics. So you cannot really get fresh insight with outdated data, right? And StarRocks has a kind of like a unique primary key index kind of mechanism, right? Uh, that is able to support real-time data update with no compromise on the query performance. And that is all done directly on the columnar storage. Uh, and that's pretty difficult to do, right? And for this, if you're interested, you can go to CelerData's blog. I think we just posted one blog related to real-time analytics, and it explains that pretty well, right?
Okay.
And Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And
good.
yeah, so the third F is flexible, right? So flexible is not simply just easy to use, right? And I think it's Sarox is a database that you don't need to adapt to it. Yeah, it adapts to you, right? It adapts to you to your use case. When you use Sarox, you don't really need to make compromise. So the biggest, I'll make an example, right? So with the similar technologies in the real time or user facing analytics space, uh, join is always not supported that well, right? And with StarRocks, you don't
Mm,
we have incredible join performance. You don't need to denormalize your data. You denormalize like multiple tables into one big single flag table, and that's just heavy, right? Any data change, any schema change is really heavy, right?
mm,
Doing that, right? So it has a lot of like features like this that makes your life easier, and you're gonna discover more as you use more, right? And this is all around the real time and the user facing kind of scenarios. And also from last year, because we're so fast, we have a very fast execution engine, right?
right.
And we have good query plans as well. And so why not data lake, right? And Staros can also be a query layer of data lake systems, so we can directly query data that's on the data lake and get like 3 to 5 times faster performance than other solutions that does similar things, right? And so we support um, Pachihudi, Iceberg,
Mm,
Hive, and Delta Lake, right? For now, the four. Right.
okay.
Sorry, I went
I
for a bit too long. Star Wars.
no
I
no.
work on the core a lot, so I got excited. Sorry. And
That's your
yeah,
that's
circle.
your passion. I think you should tell us more about it. It's music to
Yeah,
my ears, and I'm pretty sure the folks who joined us as well. So please continue. No problem
yeah,
at all.
yeah. And about the cloud that just GA, right? And we built CelerData Cloud to make the best use of cloud, and we chose a
Mm,
kind of like EYOC architecture, which means bring your own cloud, right? Which means that bring your own cloud, right? So
mm,
the database itself, the Starox database service, is deployed in the customer's VPC, in the customer's account. So the customer can have maximum control over their data, and they actually have the ownership, right? So if they so they have the ability to delete the data by themselves or turn off the connection anytime, right? And
Nice.
We have a manager service deployed in CelerData's VPC. So in our account, that connects to the database that's in our users account and does all kind of maintenance.
Got it.
So the customer don't need to worry about any of the like maintaining a database, right? And also we have designed CelerData Cloud to be compatible, for multi-cloud. And the first G8 version is on AWS. So we can, if you're interested, you can go to cloud.celerdata.com and give it a try, right? And so that's about it.
Yeah, no, I think you've covered a pretty good ground. We are now more familiar with obviously what CelerData is, what StarRox is, and you've given us an in-depth understanding about how and what capabilities you'll have in the cloud as well. So thanks for that, Sida. It kind of all makes sense. But since we are on this topic, obviously another question that kind of pops up is as an open source project, StarRox is free to use. So many people might ask what they can get with CelerData. What would be the reasons someone would want to work with CelerData? Just any thoughts there?
Yeah, sure. StarRox itself is free because it's open source, right? But managing a database is never free. It comes with preparing your own hardware, and that's probably the cheapest part, to be honest. And hiring a data engineer or data engineering team to manage the database, right? And none of this actually come cheap, right? If you do not already have a data engineering team, hiring an experienced data engineer can easily cost like 200K plus, right? To do this, right? And so to say it free is free, but it has a lot of hidden costs, right? And so with CelerData Enterprise, and so by working with CelerData, because CelerData is the the main contributor of the project, and we know the project best, right? So we're able to provide you with the best support that you can get,
Right.
Anybody else in the world, right? Like for StarRox, right? And with CelerData Enterprise, the on-prem version, right? You're gonna get dedicated support from our field team, and oh, not Starbucks. I was reading the comments. Sorry. Yeah, you're
No,
gonna get dedicated support
yep.
from
So that's the comment.
Yeah, from our field team and our RD team, right? So you have somebody that's backing you up when something goes wrong, right? And we have the CelerData Cloud BYOC version, which is the one that just got G8, right? And that has a BYOC architecture, right? And so that shields you from the complexity of managing a database, right? So you don't need to manage a database anymore and just focus on what you want to do, right? And actually, we're in the process of developing a fully managed SaaS, which means that that's gonna go parallel with the BYOC as well in the future, right? And that means that the data and the deployment is in CelerData's VPC, right?
Yep.
And with that, not only the management of the database, you don't even need to worry about the complexity of AWS. So you don't need to know what instance you're using or what VPC is. You just log in with your password and you're ready to write your SQL, right? And so if open source is good enough for you, or open source, so you have a team to manage it, right? It's okay. But if you want to get support or dedicated support or easier deployments or easier maintenance, CelerData is the way to go. Oh, also, we have some, enterprise features as well for CelerData Cloud, right?
Okay. That's amazing insights. Thanks for letting us know more about the open source project as well and how folks can work into the CelerData. Another quick question, and the biggest question, I'm pretty sure everyone's hearing a lot about the cloud cost, the cloud cost effectiveness, and all of those things from you, Sida. So on behalf of not only just the audience but myself, I'm kind of curious to learn more about it. Is where can people go and learn more about CelerData Cloud and pricing? Is there a way for people to try CelerData for free? And the similar question, yes, I see it in the comments. Sanjeev is asking, what is the cost model for CelerData Cloud? So can you tell us a bit about that?
Okay. So do you actually want me to show what CelerData Cloud looks like? I mean, that's probably going to be.
Yeah, that would be amazing if you can. Like, you can use the present button down there and give us a quick sneak peek if you would like.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, here we go.
Here we go. So this is the CelerData Cloud console, right? And so this is actually this account I just created for this event.
Nice.
So I still have the free trial. So we have a 30-day free trial, right? And really yesterday, so 29 days now. And so in the 30 days, you can do whatever you want. You can create a cluster that's with any size, and it's gonna incur no cost, and that's a 30-day, right? And so this is the cluster view. I only have one cluster here, but you have more, it's gonna all show up here, right? And CelerData Cloud also has a RBAC kind of access control, right? It comes with two predefined roles, and here is a role I created, right? And it has 9 privileges you can choose from. So you can always make sure that your user is having the minimum amount of access to the cluster to do their job, right? So you never want to give privileges, right?
Yep.
To keep it secure, right? And we also have alarms, and this is one example, right? Memory alarm, and you can define your own alarm rules, and it's going to send an email to this email address. I didn't fill it out. So yeah.
Very good.
Yep. And the cluster, let's take a look at this cluster. Oh, what's my password? Here you go. All right, this is the this is what inside of a cluster looks like, and you have a query editor, and this I'll come back to this later. Query history, and we have monitors here.
Sida, are you on the other screen by any chance?
Oh, yeah. Let me.
I just thought so. Yep. We can pull this up for you. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I remember I talked about this before. We can CelerData can work as a database. It has its own storage engine, right? You can insert data into CelerData's own storage engine, right? But it can also query data lakes, right? And the CelerData has 3 kind of tiered hierarchy, right? So first is catalog and database and tables and views, right? So catalog is basically separates internally stored data and external tables and external data, right? So you have the internal catalog, and that's the data that's stored in CelerData's own internal storage, and you can create an external catalog to query data from external sources. Let me just do it on the fly. Yeah, I have SQL already. So let's create a connection to S3, AWS S3, right? And let's call out name just Glue Test because we're using Glue, Amazon Glue as the meta store. right?
Yep.
And the default table format for AWS Glue is Hive, right? So we just do Hive. We don't need a description or and region. This cluster is deployed in Oregon. So let's do this. Do this. So this is where the meta store is. Next step, create. Right, and here we go.
Nice.
And we should be able to see. It's gonna take some time. Yep, we're here, and now we can see all of the databases in Glue, right? Without doing any import, right? Let's do this, right? This is a pretty big ass database. So this is the TBCDS 1 terabyte data set here, right? And we can see all of the tables here, right? And let's use this database, and let's see catalog sales, right? I like that table. This is I think the biggest table in TBCDS. Let's see how many rows it has. That's
oh my
I think it's 1.4 billion, right? And this is just a count star. And this doesn't actually scan the data because Parquet file, I think in the headers, it has the number of lines in it, right? So let's run an actual query. This is query number 12 from TBCDS. It's probably going to take a bit longer, but it should be done in, let's see. Yeah, that's pretty fast.
Wow.
1 terabyte.
Yeah.
And this is querying external, querying data on S3 directly, right? And one cool thing I want to show is the query history. And this is actually one of the enterprise feature I was talking about, right? And you can see the query profile. Exactly where the time has spent. How can I zoom? Okay. Right? So it's spending a lot of time on the join, right? And so, yeah, so this is a join heavy complex query, right? And so we render this query profile here, but you can always get, the detailed. This is long. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, cool. And 17 seconds, and that's all. Let's go back to the wait. Oh wait, I don't think you guys seen the. I forgot to.
No, we have all eyes here, Sida, on you. So tell us more about it. Yeah.
I don't think you guys saw the query history though.
Yeah, just with this one we've seen. Yeah, the history. Yep. Okay, yes.
Let me do it again. Oh, this. You guys didn't see this.
Yes, this one we did.
The profile, yeah, it's about this.
Ah.
Yeah, it's about this. So you can see exactly where the time has spent, right? The query we just ran, right? And without, so this is actually an enterprise feature, and or you get this. So this is the detail of the query.
All of it.
Yeah, all of it, right? Okay, and let's go back to. Let me swap the share screen again. Okay, so right, so talking about usage, right? Because I'm on a free trial, it's free, and I don't have a card here. So it's basically based on CCU, and this is calculated with a granularity of seconds. So that's basically how long your cluster has been, actively running, right? And we also have a feature called suspend. So suspend, you don't need to pay for, after you suspend the cluster, you don't need to pay for the compute. And for a classic cluster, is storage and compute as a shared nothing architecture. So with this kind of cluster, the data is persisted in the local disk, right? So we need to keep the EBS storage but the most important, the most expensive part, the EC2 is we no longer charge that. It's suspended, and
No.
you can consume, right? And we actually have two kinds of clusters, and I want to show this. This is new for Star 3.0, and we just released that elastic cluster. So this is the kind of the cloud native version of Star Rocks, and this features a shared data, so storage and compute separated kind of architecture, right? So with this, instead of persisting data in the local storage on in the EC2, right, or on EBS, the data is persisted on S3 in external storage, right? So when you scale, you don't need to move data around, right? So all of things in the BE nodes, in the compute nodes, are cache. You can discard at any time, right? So this kind of cluster is really good for scaling. So if you want to change your compute node from 2 to 6, it happens in a few seconds or 10 seconds, right? And okay, actually, this is a free trial, but I want to show you something.
Yep.
There is a secret way of getting everything free. Let me see. Dev here. Dev. Let's just call it dev, right? See the CCU. Let me go for a region. Right, 4 core, and this is the cost per hour. Although we show per hour, but we calculate based on seconds, right? But if you BE node count, there's a free developer tier.
Okay, got it. Good hack.
Yeah, and and we don't limit the storage, so you can have as much as you want. And for one FE and one BE with 4 front end and back end, with 4 core, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and this is a free developer tier you can use even after the trial period has ended. Right.
So Sida has give you all a good hack as well. Behind the scenes, what you could do. So pretty cool. Thanks for that, Sida.
Yeah, but just be aware, because we have a VLC kind of architecture, you still need to pay for the EC2. So that but there is no like overhead. Okay, I think that's all.
Yeah. No, I think Sida, you've covered a good ground for us in terms of giving us a quick sneak peek into the cloud CelerData cloud, also letting us know about the pricing and how it's working for free. So it's pretty interesting. Another very interesting question that's coming up from Sanjeev here, and I would love to take it as the last question. I know we're almost time. So this looks promising how CelerData is different from Snowflake in terms of the cloud data warehouse SaaS product perspective. So yeah, any thoughts?
Yeah. So so compared to Snowflake, I think is 2 parts. First is the openness, right? And the second part is the cost, the cost effectiveness, right? Let's go with the first one first. So openness. So Snowflake has, it stores data on S3, but it's in its own kind of format, right? It's not a open kind of lake house architecture. The Snowflake, you can see that as a closed kind of lake house, right? So vendor lock-in may become an issue with Snowflake, especially, with Snowflake, if you want the latency to be very low, the cost is really there. It's really significant, right? So moving off Snowflake might be a need in the future when you expand, but moving off might be difficult, right? And the second is the cost comparison between CelerData and Snowflake, because CelerData has just good performance, and we can get more performance out of the same amount of hardware, right? So inherently, we're just cheaper. And running, TP-CDS queries from the first one to the 99th one, it's only at 30-something% of the cost compared to the standard Snowflake, which is $1 per credit. And So yeah,
Mm.
and any other questions?
Yeah, no, I think good answer there, Sida. Thanks for sharing those. I think we've covered a good ground today. So I'll definitely keep more for another session in terms of more questions. But it was such a pleasure to have you on the Ravit Show, Sida. You've shared such amazing insights in terms of, letting us know about FinOps, about cloud cost, about analytics infrastructure. So thanks again for visiting, and thanks everyone for joining us. Definitely stay tuned. We'll be announcing the winner next week in our newsletter. So all the best for that. Don't forget to share the uh, complete event on your LinkedIn and tag us so we can get you entered in the raffle. And obviously we see your hashtags there. So thanks again, Sida. See you again very soon. Until then, take care.
Thank you. Appreciate that.